Good evening, morning, wherever you guys are. Tom Grant here, picking up the Wimbledon look back and the Olympic preview for the doubles tennis. And I am joined kindly by Will Bocek and Hanlon Walsh. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. How are you?
Yeah. Doing well. Thanks, Tom. How are you?
Yes, not too bad, not too bad. Whereabouts in the world am I talking to you guys from? Are you guys in Paris or in the States? Whereabouts?
I'm in Texas, in Fort Worth, Texas, just outside of Dallas. So we were actually both in Wyoming the past week for a friend's wedding and flew. I got home Wednesday night. So
nice. Must be warm where you are.
It is, yeah. It's pretty hot. The summer's been a little bit cooler than normal, but still, try to get in the pool as much as possible.
Yeah, we don't have that trouble over here. And Hanlon, you were saying you were in Chicago, right?
Yes, I'm in Chicago this weekend. Also warm here, so in the peak of summertime. But yeah, good to be talking some doubles today.
Yeah, let's do it then. So we'll have the way I think we'll do it is we'll maybe start with Wimbledon. Obviously, the Grand Slam that's just finished. A lot to talk about, a lot of kind of fallout from it that we'll maybe touch on, and then we'll just look ahead to the Olympics. I know, Will, I think I was reading a nice piece that you put together about what to look forward for at the Olympics. So we'll delve into that. But yeah, I thought it would be best to dissect the Wimbledon, the grass court event that has just finished, the Grand Slam. And I was going to start with just picking one of the doubles finals to start with, but I thought I'll throw that back to you guys and we can go from there. So what was your favourite double? I think I know the answer, but let's start with whatever one was your favourite doubles final. So, I'll maybe let you start with that one.
Yeah, so Hanlon and I actually hopped on Talking Tennis for the men's doubles final. I don't know if we knew what we were signing up for because the match ended up lasting almost 3 hours. It was 6-7, 7-6, 7-6. So it was as long as possible. Even the tiebreakers, I think, were like the first two were supposed to be 7-point tiebreakers, and they were like 9-7 and 10-12 or something. It just could not have gone on any longer. But it was super exciting. There was 0 breaks of serves throughout the match, which was kind of interesting. And I shared some thoughts on the call about what the teams may have been able to improve in terms of their return strategy. But it was cool to see Harry Hiliavara and Henry Patton get through that and win a Grand Slam title. Harry, especially watching his celebrations, is so much fun. He, like, every single, even when they won the second set, like his celebration after that, it means the world to him, and you can tell, and it makes it more even more fun to watch than normal. So I think watching all of that, calling it with Hanlon, was a lot of fun. So that was probably my favorite of the finals. Okay,
lovely. Well, we'll start there then. Hanlon, Harry and Henry, I mean, I do listen to a lot of tennis media and Tennis Unfiltered with their coach Calvin Betton on it. Fairly successful UK podcast. But these guys are a fairly new team, aren't they? They've only really got together in the last few months, but they have been making great strides, winning events, challengers, etc. So do you want to just talk about the dynamic and why this has proven so successful?
Yeah, I think they had a lot of good match wins and tournament wins, like you said, on the Challenger Tour. So once you're able to play at a lower level, get more match reps and get more confidence, you can kind of take that momentum, to the bigger tournaments. And a lot of people say there isn't always a huge difference between the level of play, let's say from the Challengers to the Grand Slams, but it comes down to consistency or just being able to, once you're finally able to break in and stay on that level. But it's so hard to break in when you're on the outside. So I think Harry and Henry probably, felt that, and then they just had a lot of good repetition and consistency over these last few months. And I think what was even cooler than their impressive results was, learning more about their backstories. I think Wimbledon fans and tennis fans really gravitated towards this after the tournament, learning that Harry, had retired from tennis or taken a break and was working a day job. And then that Henry Patton was, an IBM statistician, I think a couple of summers when he was, playing college tennis for the US, or maybe right after school. I forget exactly what the timeline was, but just learning about their paths, like in the professional world. And then, several years later, both of them are Wimbledon Grand Slam champions. And I think even more special for Henry Patton to win that on, his home soil at Wimbledon of all places. So it was a really cool story. And I think once people can gravitate towards stories like that about doubles players, they learn so much more and they're more interested in following doubles. So the more we can do that, the better.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to come on to the kind of fallout from that. I think it's fair to describe it. And I know, Will, in this exchange that's been going on between Coach Calvin Bett and Andy Roddick, Roddick said some things on his podcast about the backstory and, about, maybe I should have put in all that training. I should have just taken up maths. Calvin accused him of being negative and disrespectful. What I know you got involved in that, Twitter exchange. Mm-hmm. Where do you see things like this, in terms of what Andy Roddick's saying and Calvin defending him?
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough subject because Andy, I listened to the podcast where Andy said that, and he, his podcast is not focused on doubles, right? He can't sit here like we can and talk about doubles for 45 minutes or more. So he briefly mentioned doubles on the podcast and then talked about how Harry had a day job. He didn't mention when it was. So I think there was just some context missing that Calvin wanted to be in there, right? Like Harry came back to the tour in 2017. He was ranked number 7 in the world 2 years ago. And that context was missing there. So for someone who was listening to Andy's show and who maybe isn't familiar with doubles players or the doubles tour, they might have thought, oh, well, this guy was working a day job last year and he just decided to play Wimbledon and won the whole thing. But that wasn't the case. And I don't think that's what Andy meant, but he didn't take the time. And I'm not sure that he should, because his podcast isn't focused on doubles, but he didn't take the time to go through all that detail. And I think Calvin was upset by that. And understandably so. I mean, it's, he's worked really hard to be in the position he is in. Obviously, Harry's worked really hard as well. And he's been, probably one of the top 10 to 15 doubles players of the last couple of seasons, really. He had a really good run with Lloyd Glasspool as well. And then the same thing for Henry Patton, right? Like he tore up the Challenger Tour for a bit with Julian Cash. And he's not, this was not a team that just came out of nowhere. And I think that's what Calvin understood on Andy's podcast. And he was defending his team, and understandably so.
Yeah, Hanlon, anything to add on that? I mean, it would be box office. I know they've invited one another onto their respective podcasts, but that would be box office stuff, wouldn't it? If we could get those two guys to actually discuss this topic, it might actually shine a bigger light on the doubles game.
Yeah, no, I think that'd be great. And I also heard the podcast episode and thought it was a little bit dismissive, but I also appreciate how Andy on Twitter is receptive to a healthy debate, and owns his, he's very self-aware and owns the areas that he's knowledgeable about and the areas that he doesn't know. And he seems willing to learn. And I think he and Will had a good dialogue, both on the Twitter feed and also in some DMs too, that it seems like things are kind of going well behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, all in all, I think it was a great story for doubles and just examples of two guys who have been, having consistent doubles careers these last few years that finally got their big break. So hopefully we'll see more of that on tour. Yeah, for more slams to come. Yeah,
absolutely. Let me ask you again, and I'll maybe throw this to Will and then again to you, Hanlon, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot a little bit, but I listened to Calvin on Tennis Unfiltered talking about the win, and he was quite out there and said, in his opinion, that Henry was probably one of the top. He came out and said it. He said he was the best doubles player in the world right now, even though he's ranked number 17. He felt in the form that he's in that he was the best doubles player, male doubles player, in the world right now. And Will, I just wondered if that's like the kind of overriding thought within the doubles game at the moment.
That's the first I've heard of that. He's certainly up there. Obviously, winning Wimbledon is a huge deal. I think if you look, a lot of this depends on surface, right? Like if you look back through the last say 3 or 4 months. Granollers and Zeballos have been the best team. They made the semis at Wimbledon. They made the finals at the French Open, I believe. Won Rome, had 1 or 2 more clay titles. In Madrid, they lost in the semis, but they defaulted because of a injury to Zeballos, I believe. So they were consistently probably the best team for the last 3 or 4 months. I'm not sure, if you asked the top 10 or 20 players who's the best doubles player in the world right now, I'm not sure what they would say. And I'm not sure many of them think about it that way. I think a lot of them are, more team oriented and so focused on the team, which is very different than your traditional kind of singles player, obviously. But Calvin, he might have more knowledge about it than I am, because he's actually in the locker room. I'm kind of studying everything from a distance.
He's going to be biased anyway, though, isn't he?
He is a little bit, but you can't blame him.
Absolutely not. I mean, he's riding a high at the moment. Hanlon, who for you, Will's touched on maybe ranking and number one player isn't really as kind of prominent in the double side of things. But do you agree, Will, with Will in terms of the team element, the best team in the game at the moment?
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think there's a lot of parity in the men's game, especially in men's doubles versus women's doubles has a couple of dominant standout players that are individually, seem to be a little bit head and shoulders above the field just in terms of their accomplishments. But the men's doubles game right now feels a little bit more wide open. One player that does come to mind is Mate Pavic. He now has the career Grand Slam in doubles with 4 different partners. He just won Roland Garros with Marcelo Arevalo, and he also has an Olympic gold with Mektic. So he's just, on paper, I think he may be one of the more decorated doubles players in today's game. But again, it's all comes down to the partnership dynamics and matchups and such razor thin margins and doubles, especially with men's doubles when it's very serve dominated. So it kind of depends on the day.
Yeah, and before I just leave the men's doubles, I just wanted to touch on the Aussie duo who made it to the final. Traditionally singles players, I mean, certainly from me viewing tennis, but what did you make of their run to the final? And correct me, are they doubling up in the Olympics for the Australians?
They're actually not playing in the Olympics.
Okay,
which I was surprised by.
Yeah, I was a little bit surprised by that as well. But they, so it was interesting when these two teams get to the finals. Purcell and Thompson were the 15 seeds, and then Heliovara and Patton were unseeded. But if you follow any of the kind of the little doubles media coverage there is, at the beginning of the tournament, they were 2 teams to kind of look forward to make a run because they were both very hot. They had 2 of the best records the entire year on tour. Granted, they've played a lot of smaller tournaments together. Purcell and Thompson won in Dallas. I think they have 1, maybe 2 more titles this year. Hanlon might know the answer to that.
Yeah, they've cleaned up at the 250 level for sure. They've won a lot of U.S. tournaments at the ATP 250 level.
Right. So that, the idea that they would both make the Wimbledon final, if you had said that at the beginning of the tournament to somebody who is familiar with the doubles tour, I don't think anybody would have been super shocked. They would have said unlikely, but yeah, it could definitely happen because those are 2 very, very good teams. Their ranking just didn't necessarily reflect that because they hadn't had the same results in some of the bigger tournaments, or maybe in the case of Purcell and Thompson, they haven't played some of the bigger tournaments together because they're still obviously focused on their singles career as well. So when we saw them actually in Dallas and interviewed them, and I spoke with a few other players, it's kind of, you asked earlier who the best doubles player in the world is right now. I don't know if he's the best doubles player in the world right now, but a few players told me they thought Max Purcell is a top 5 doubles player of the last 3 or 4 years, even though he's still focused mostly on his singles career. And watching him and studying him, I think that's definitely the case. Yeah,
no, it's fascinating. Because I watch more singles and doubles, I'll hold my hands up. But when these players do make that move, I mean, I've always heard the argument that experienced doubles players should always beat, two single players at the other side of the net. I know that's not always the case, but, I suppose what you're saying there is that Max Purcell has probably got the game for kind of flitting between both.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he definitely he knows how to play doubles. I mean, you can tell when a quote singles player is on the doubles court and they don't really know what they're doing. They don't know how to play doubles. That's not the case with Max Purcell. And a lot of players kind of develop one earlier than another. You see on the women's side, like Katerina Siniakova still has a pretty good singles career, but she just won the French Open and Wimbledon back to back, and is obviously one of the best doubles players of all time. Coco Gauff even has developed her doubles game really nicely. When I watched her play doubles, 4 or 5 years ago, she was a singles player on the doubles court, and today that's not the case. She's definitely a doubles player on the doubles court, and then she can still obviously be a singles player on the singles court as well.
Yeah, good. Okay, well, lovely segue. I always like when this happens, because let's jump to the ladies' doubles then. And you mentioned Siniakova. She won the ladies' doubles at Wimbledon with Taylor Townsend. Again, two very close sets, 7-6, 7-6 for Siniakova and Townsend. Did you guys watch this one? And where was it won and lost? I'll start with you, Hanlon.
Yeah, I did watch it. It was a terrific match. Two tight tiebreaker sets, and over Gabby Dabrowski and Erin Routliffe. And I don't really remember exactly if there were any points that were, stand out or significant that kind of sealed the deal. But I do think with, Siniakova, she has an ability to win with so many different players, and she and Townsend, were such a good team as expected. And it's really cool to see Siniakova, and she now has 9 women's doubles majors, 7 with Krejcikova, and then the last 2 she's won with Coco Gauff and Taylor Townsend. So there was, kind of a joke on Twitter that she's helping Americans win their first doubles slam by playing with them back to back. And I think it just proves even more that she's, eventually will likely go down as like one of the game's doubles greats, just given the fact she's only 20. I would guess that she's going to win a handful more. So it'll be interesting to watch her career and how it kind of stacks up with Martina Hingis, who has 13 majors, or Venus and Serena, who have 14 doubles majors. So she's really getting into kind of the doubles GOAT territory with some of the WTA greats, who we all know. So that was my takeaway of just kind of watching her career, continue to progress. And then it was really exciting to see Taylor Townsend win her first doubles major as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And well, I was going to ask you, Siniakova, she's obviously won slams in the past with Krejcikova. Again, just showing how good she is on the doubles court.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was. So as far as the match goes, I think if I'm remembering correctly, Dabrowski and Routliffe were up a break in the first set, and I believe serving at 5-3, so they had a chance to serve out the first set and got broken. And then the second set, there were 0 breaks of serve. So it was a very tight match, and Dabrowski and Routliffe had their chances. But as far as Siniakova goes, it's really been a crazy year for her, because she started the year teaming up with Storm Hunter. They make the semis of the Australian Open. She and Storm actually played against Krejcikova and Lara Siegmund in the quarterfinals, in what is probably one of the best doubles matches of the year. I think it was 7-5 in the third, I believe, maybe 6-4 in the third. And Siniakova beats Krejcikova on the doubles court in the Grand Slam that they won last year. I think they won they won the Aussie last year. I think the last 2 years maybe. And then in April, Storm tears her Achilles. So Siniakova was just kind of bouncing around with different doubles partners, and again proves that she can win with anyone. And it's so impressive. I believe 2 or 3 years ago, she won like 6 titles with 4 different partners. Obviously teaming up with Krejcikova in the Grand Slams and the 1000s, but she played doubles at some 250s and 500s and won with like Bernarda Pera, and won a tournament with Asia Muhammad, I believe. So just no matter who she teams up with, she can help them figure out how to play their best doubles and kind of carry the load, if you will. So it's just so impressive to watch, and you can learn a ton from studying her game as well.
Yeah, good. And we'll come on to Siniakova again when we do the Olympics preview. But let's jump to the mixed. Hu and Shea and Zelensky winning that one. Hanlon, what did you think of that one?
I mean, same with Siniakova. I would put Shea Sue in that category of just a doubles goat kind of in the making. She now has 7 women's doubles majors and 2 mixed doubles majors, both with Zelensky this year. So she's proven she can play with many partners in both disciplines. Wimbledon is certainly the place where she's had the most success. I think she's won the women's title 4 times now, and then mixed doubles, this was her first Wimbledon title. So she's it's funny to see her on a mixed doubles court, because even the guys, I've heard Neil Skupski in an interview with Will earlier this year talked about how Shea is so deceptive and she's so hard to play against. So even the men, I think, struggle with her sometimes because she hits the ball at such a slower, kind of flat, just weird off spin sort of pace, and the guys who are used to heavy pace have trouble with her. She's very cunning and smart and knows her way around a court. So she's just a really fun character to watch in doubles, and I'm glad to see her have so much success in this later chapter of her career after taking nearly 2 years off a couple of years ago.
Yeah, well, it was a fairly straightforward final, 6-4, 6-2, or the other way around. But what did you make of the final in terms of quality? Was it a competitive match, or was it pretty straightforward?
Yeah, I mean, it was a pretty straightforward match. I mean, the Mexican team, Juliana Olmos and Santiago Gonzalez, had a good run to the final, but they, at least in this matchup, they seemed kind of outmatched. I'm pulling up the stats here, and they had 0 break chances. The total point count was 74-48. So in doubles, where the margins are typically so thin, this was a pretty straightforward match for Zelensky and Sue. I don't think that you typically see this one-sided of a final. Obviously, in the men's and women's doubles, we didn't. But with Shea, when she is, has things going, and then Zelensky has shown the same thing on the men's side. When he, at the Australian Open last year, on that run he had, when he's returning well, they're a virtually unbeatable team. So I think that's kind of what Olmos and Gonzalez ran up against.
Yeah, absolutely. And then before we leave Wimbledon, I was going to ask them, there's been some chat about the singles not having a great year at Wimbledon in terms of quality and the draws falling apart. What's your thoughts on the three disciplines of the doubles? Was it a good tournament for the doubles game? Was there a little bit of falling away of the draws? What I mean, again, Hanlon, I'll maybe start with yourself, because I know you guys will have maybe different opinions. But yeah, in terms of the quality and putting it up there with different events throughout the year, what did you think about Wimbledon for the doubles?
To me, I mean, it's tough to remember specific matches now after the event, but I always come away with some of the biggest stories of the event. And I think in each of the finals, you have such great stories with Harry and Henry and just their backstories and winning their first major. And then the women's doubles, Siniakova kind of etching herself into tennis history, Townsend winning her first major title in 3 attempts, Shea and Zelensky in mixed doubles winning their second title in 2 attempts, the Australian Open and Wimbledon. So I always come away with it with what significant stories happened and where does that take us next. And I think in each of the 3 disciplines, there were such great stories. And then the men's final too, you had that element of heartbreak with Purcell and Thompson having championship points on their racket and not being able to finish it off. So that was a thrilling final in itself. So those are some takeaways for me, but I don't know if you remember any specific matches or what you think the quality of the tournaments were as a whole.
Yeah. I was looking up the draw just to refresh my memory, and from the quarterfinals on, the matchups were great. In the quarterfinals for the women, it was 7 out of 8 teams were seeded. The other team was Babos and Kitchenok, which is, 2 really good doubles players. On the men's side, the matchups in the semis were fantastic. There was one kind of outlier team in the quarters that I'm not super familiar with, the German team, Jabins and Franzen. But other than that, I mean, you had Arevalo and Pavic in the quarters, Maltini and Gonzalez, who have been a great team the last couple of years, Poots and Kravitz, who are going to be one of the top teams for the Olympics. Grenors and Zeballos were in the quarters. So, if somebody's trying to argue that the quality or the draw fell apart or anything like that, I don't think there's a lot of evidence to show that. Because these matchups are, if you're a doubles fan, these are really, really great matchups.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to point out, and this was big news, obviously, in Scotland and in the UK, there was the whole mixed doubles, Raducanu, Andy Murray. And I'm sure this was put to you guys the last time. Sorry, you can probably hear a 2-year-old getting put to bed in the background here. But yeah, just Hanlon, just your thoughts on that whole. I mean, it's obviously it's gone, it's all past now, it's all water under the bridge. But did you have a view on Raducanu pulling out?
Yeah, I mean, it's tough. At the end of the day, tennis players are inherently selfish and need to be looking out for the best interests of their own career. But I do think there would have, had he maybe asked someone else. I know there was chatter like, why didn't he ask Heather Watson or Katie Bolter or bring Ash Barty out of retirement? I know that was kind of a joke, but I think depending on the player, some players would have made that more of a priority to, get the chance to play with Andy Murray on center court. Like, that's hard to beat. But Emma, I think, has kind of she has suffered with injuries and has been very particular throughout her career about which matches or tournaments she plays. She's not one that has, been afraid to retire or pull out of a tournament. So I think that was her personal, or that maybe wasn't a huge surprise, but it was disappointing, of course, to see. And I think there's different schools of thought based on should she have played or should she have, or was she right to withdraw? So it was a bummer, but tennis players are selfish at the end of the day and need to look out for themselves. Yeah.
And well, I mean, the Friday night game or Thursday night game, sorry, and he played with his brother in the doubles, obviously got beat sadly, but did you watch that, and was that the kind of perfect way to send off, centre court with his family beside him?
Well, I think it was kind of strange because he thought when he, lost that match that he had another match. So I don't know. I don't know the details of how the communication went down, but I would imagine, if I'm Emma Raducanu and I get invited to play doubles with Andy Murray, if he asks me, I know it's his last Wimbledon. I'm gonna communicate like, hey, I'm happy to sign up with you. If I make a deep run in singles and I'm not feeling great, I might back out. Are you still okay with that? And he might be like, no, I'll find someone else. I don't want to risk that.
Yeah.
If that wasn't said or if that wasn't communicated in some form or fashion, then I kind of put that on Emma. That's got to be communicated because, or maybe you put it on Andy for not double checking or something. I don't know.
That's a good point.
Because I guess there's two sides of it, but I don't know. Maybe Andy thought it was implied, that this is my last Wimbledon.
Yeah.
You're not I shouldn't have to ask, are you going to back out of this? But who knows? I mean, Emma ends up making a run in singles and then, backs out for whatever reason. And it was tough to see because I was looking forward to watching them play.
Yeah, it would have been good. And it was a polarising issue at the time, and I suppose it might run and run now, especially thanks to Mother Murray. But let's go on to the Olympics, where, of course, Andy has he's focusing solely on the doubles. And some of the highlights from Paris, which the opening ceremony will be taking place just right now, I think. But yeah, some of the highlights that I've spotted, of course, Alcaraz and Nadal. They start against Maximo Gonzalez and Maltini of Argentina. Not an easy opener. Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul of the US taking on, this one's a good one, Felix Auger-Aliassime and Milos Raonic of Canada. Andy Murray and Darren Evans, I think they're playing Kaina Shikuri and Taro Daniel. And then you've got Goff and Jessica Pegula, of course, top seeds, but they are going to have to face Krejcikova and Siniakova. So yeah, just in terms of the doubles and where you rank it in terms of excitement, I know that you mentioned in your piece from today. Well, that some people might not put as much onus on the doubles in the Olympics and tennis in the grand scheme of things, but are you guys excited for the next couple of days or the next week or so?
Yeah, I think for sure. Especially, it feels like this year, this version of the Olympics doubles is even more heightened than it maybe has been in the past, just with Nadal or Murray and Nadal both likely. I know Murray already pulled out of singles, and there's chatter that Nadal may pull out of singles. I'm not sure if he already has, but just the fact that both of them are in doubles, this is the end of their career. I think that's such a headliner and promotional tool for the doubles competition that both of these big greats of our game are playing and really, prioritizing doubles over singles given their health and the, confidence they have in their partners. So I think Murray and Nadal are huge for the doubles competition. And besides them, there's so many other big names playing, like you mentioned, Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul, and a lot of other household singles names. Obviously, Coco Gauff and Jess Pegula, the Czech teams. There's a lot of good and compelling teams in both fields. And the thing with the Olympics, you can never really guess what the outcome is going to be. I think with men playing best of three, and then just some people, kind of play better when they're playing for their country or having extra fire or motivation. So it's always, I think, produced some unpredictable results in the past. So I'm curious to see how it unfolds this year.
Yeah, and well, you'd mentioned because of the 10-point match tiebreaker that could throw up, a lot of crazy results in terms of people beating teams winning when they maybe thought you thought they wouldn't. But what is the kind of stand? There's so many plots and subplots to these Olympics, of course, playing at a major venue for the first time since London 2012. For you, what's the kind of standout storyline that you're keeping an eye on?
Yeah, I mean, the standout storyline is Nadal and Alcaraz playing together for sure. That's gotten the most coverage so far, and I'm sure it'll be the most watched match. Yeah, I mean, anytime you have Nadal or any of the big 3 or 4 playing doubles, it gets the biggest storyline. So that's definitely number one. Beyond that, it's just cool to see. I don't know. I wish there was more events like this where you have teams or players teaming up from the same country. Like Hanlon mentioned, some players seem to, in some countries, I guess, seem to use that as extra motivation more so than others. So, the Aussies usually get really amped for team competitions. The Canadian teams usually do. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays a role. And then, like you mentioned, the 10-point tiebreaker and the no-ad format, it creates a bit more chaos in the draws at times, which is why you'll see, some upsets probably early on, because it can come down to one no-ad point where you get a lucky net cord, or in a 10-point tiebreaker, if you just get on a hot streak serving for 3 or 4 points, or returning for 3 or 4 points, then you can really turn a match around, even if you haven't played well throughout the entirety of the match. So it'll be a lot of fun to watch for sure.
And I think the seedings too are interesting too, because it looks like they seeded the doubles draw by either your highest singles or doubles combined ranking. So Taylor Fritz and Tommy Paul, for example, are seeded 3. And I believe Ugo Humbert and Arthur Fils were seeded 8. So it's just funny to see some singles names that are higher seeds in the doubles draw. And I think that can, to Will's point about the unpredictable results, that'll throw a wrench in any draw, I think, with having the seedings like kind of combined between singles and doubles players. Yeah,
it's going to be fun. And well, I'm going to put you a little bit on the spot. Reading your piece from today, you put in going for gold. If we stick to the ladies for now, you had the Czech couple, of course, Krejcikova and Sinakova. You put Paulini and Irani in there, Coco Gauff and Pegula, Leila Fernandez and Dabrowski, and Ayoma and Shiobara. And I just wanted to think, put you on the spot a little bit and just go, if I had to make you say who's going to be holding the gold medal in a few weeks' time, what couple would you be putting in there?
So Hanlon actually wrote that.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
No, you're good. So Hanlon wrote that piece.
We kind of collaborated, though. on the team.
Yeah, we were kind of collaborating on it the other day over breakfast and chatting about it. So I'll let him answer that.
Good.
One thing,
Pass the buck.
one thing I do want to mention is I am pretty biased because I'm doing strategy analysis and scouting for the U.S. doubles teams. So I think U.S. is going to win gold, silver, and bronze.
and all disciplines. So Hanlon, you're on the spot then. It's going to be hard to pick because you've made a very good case for all 5 of the going for golds. But yeah, if I had to put you on the spot and talking tennis on the night of the opening ceremony, make a case for the winner.
I mean, this is kind of a boring pick, but I'm going to have to go with the Czech team of Barbora Krejcikova and Katerina Siniakova. They haven't played together much this year because they broke up a little bit, but they just won the title in Prague today. And both of them are coming into the Olympics with a lot of momentum, having just, Krejcikova won the Wimbledon singles title. Siniakova has won the last 2 majors. They just won, the Prague title together. They've played together for so long. They've, easy to find their chemistry again. They're also the defending gold medalists from the Tokyo Olympics. So I think, all signs point to them potentially winning, but they have a difficult draw. They could face, they face the Chan sisters first round, and then they could face Aoyama and Shibahara in round 2, which would be a really tricky matchup for them. So they don't have an easy path to get there, but I think they'll certainly use the momentum and confidence coming in from these last few weeks to their advantage.
And well, I'll ask you then. You can answer this one for me, but you put a dark horses part in it, and I thought that was really intriguing. So yeah, is there anyone that you've just got a sneaking feeling that are going to turn up on form? The surface suits them, the partnership suits them, and you think they can maybe make a semis or even further than into a final, depending on the draw. After the draw's been made.
Yeah. On the men's side, I'm looking at the draw now. I mean, Ribul and Roger Vasselin just made the finals, I believe, in Hamburg. So they're a very good team, 2 strong doubles players. They're unseeded for the ranking reasons that Hanlon just mentioned. Let's see. That'd probably be my unseeded pick. Actually, Gilles and Vliegen had a really good clay court run. They won in Monte Carlo, and they play together year round on tour. So they're going to have a lot of team chemistry. They probably want this title really bad, playing for their country year round. So that would be probably another team to look out for. And then you've got some singles players like Fritz and Paul playing together, who could catch fire. Jan-Leonard Struff is a good doubles player with some proven results. He's playing with Dominique Kopfer for Germany, another unseeded team of singles players. Yeah, that's probably it for the men's draw as far as kind of unseeded dark horse type teams. On the women's side, let's see. It'll be interesting to see how Lulu Sun does in doubles because Erin Routliffe just reached world #1 for the first time. She made the finals at Wimbledon, like we talked about earlier, alongside Gabby Dabrowski. And then Lulu Sun had her deep run in the singles draw. So is Erin able to kind of show her how to play doubles? Because Lulu obviously has the skills to do so. And if she can, and if they, gel together well, they could make a really deep run because Erin's playing some of the best doubles in the world right now for sure. So that's probably a team to watch out for on the women's side. The Kitchenocks are a great team from Ukraine that are unseeded as well. They made the finals on clay in Charleston earlier this year, or they won in Charleston. I'm sorry. Yeah, those are a couple teams to. Oh, they made the finals. Okay. Yeah, those are a couple teams to look out for though that have some really good form. Caroline Garcia and Diane Perry would be another one. Garcia's a proven doubles player as well.
Yeah, I noticed that one when I was reading your article with the French pairing, and yeah, I thought maybe Hanlon, I wanted to ask you, the talk of the town is of course Alcaraz and Nadal, and I just was interested in the fact that that was in the going for gold section, and I wondered if you guys maybe debated this for a while beforehand, because in terms, I know that Nadal's won the gold before, but in terms of Carlos's pedigree, are you putting that down to pedigree on the doubles court? Of course, we know he's got pedigree and talent, but is that just raw tennis ability that you're firing there? He's a good volleyer. Where are you getting that from? Explain it to the people who are watching as to why.
It was that is a good question, because we did debate on that, and I was pushing to put them in that category. Will was leaning towards putting them in the silver bronze category, so it's still up for a little bit of debate. But I think just leaning on Nadal's experience, winning. Nadal's the best doubles player of the big four. Just looking at his resume, he's won gold before. I think he can take Carlos under his wing. They have the lefty-righty combo. Carlos seems to have just about every shot in the book. He can move really well. He's, it's on clay. Both of them obviously are successful Roland Garros winners in singles. So I think that could translate to the doubles court, and just the, sheer competitor that Nadal is, playing in his likely his last doubles match, excluding Labor Cup. I think there's just a lot of intangibles that they have that will translate well to the doubles court. Might have been a stretch putting them in the gold category, but I'm, going to stand by my pick, and I'll let Will be devil's advocate if you have a disagreement there, any counterpoints. So
it sounds like, Hanlon, that you won that debate, but fair play to you, so that you're standing by that.
It was a little bit of my heart too, so we'll see if it holds true, but.
Absolutely. And I mean, I know we're coming to the end of our chat, and it's been fascinating, but got to end with a bit of the British side. Again, put in Murray and Danny Evans there. Surely that was you guys just being kind and sentimental, Will?
They do have actually a pretty workable draw, honestly.
Yeah.
And Evans has had some doubles results too, so I think he knows how to play doubles. They'll have the support of the LTA as well, and I imagine Louis Caillé will be involved to some extent. I don't know that for sure, but if he is, that's always a bonus, because he knows all of these teams so well and knows exactly how to kind of move the chess pieces around and give them a game plan. So I don't think it's unreasonable that they would make it to the Final Four and have a chance at a medal.
Yeah,
they couldn't have asked for honestly a much better draw. I would get. I mean, there's no easy draw in this format, but they have a lot of singles teams in their quarter, or just like they don't seem to have any really giant, doubles titans or just like unbeatable teams on paper. Obviously, there's so many unknown elements with health and with matchups and whatnot. But if I'm Andy Murray, I would be pretty happy with the draw that I got, based on the other options that are floating out there.
Okay. Well, we'll finish one. Tell people who maybe don't usually watch doubles. Tell for each one, mixed doubles, men's doubles, and the ladies' doubles. If Hanlon, will start with you. Give us the match of the first round. Then what match should, if the guys are sticking on their telly wherever they are in the world, what match should they be looking out for? We'll start with the mixed doubles, Hanlon, and then I'll come to you, Will, for the ladies and the men's.
Oh, mixed doubles. Well, this is more of a fun matchup. I actually heard the tennis podcast talking about this. Sarah Arani and Simone Bolelli play Daniil Medvedev and Mira Andreeva, I believe. And there was some laughter about, it's going to be hilarious to see Medvedev return Sarah Arani's serve when she is clocking in, 60 mile per hour serves, and Medvedev just being kind of the jokester that he is. I think that'll be just more of an entertaining matchup to watch. I need to pull out the mixed draw to see like what the actual like meaty matchup would be, but that was just that's more of a crowd favorite. I think just funny if you know those players to watch.
Well, that's part of the question as well. Like, it doesn't need to be in terms of like the best quality match. I suppose it's just a lot of people will be putting eyes on the Olympics.
Yeah.
And coming into this without any kind of prior knowledge to the players that they're watching. So that's as good an answer as any. Well, Hanlon does that and checks out the draw. And I know, again, I maybe put you on the spot a little bit in terms of the draw. But is there a match in the ladies and the gentlemen's that the guys who are maybe watching doubles for the first time that they should keep an eye out for?
Yeah. For the men's draw, I think you have to watch the Alcaraz-Nadal match. They're playing Gonzalez and Maltini from Argentina. who are a quality, probably one of the top 5 clay teams in the world. So it's not going to be an easy match for either team. So I think you've got to watch that. It's just must-see TV watching Nadal on the doubles court. So that would be my pick for the men's draw. For the women's, let me pull it up here.
Coco Gauff and Pegula versus Ellen Perez and Daria Saville from Australia. I think that's at the very top of the draw. That could be a really good first round.
Yeah, that's a great one. Scrolling further down.
Also, Aaron Routliffe and Lulu Sun, who Bocek or Will mentioned earlier, they play Sarah Irani and Jasmine Paolini, and that could be a really good matchup too.
Yeah.
Will, do you see any others?
No, I think those are the two best. Irani and Paolini made the finals at Roland Garros just a month or two ago. So they're probably one of the favorites in the women's draw for sure. So it'll be interesting to see how the world number 1 handles that. And then, like Hanlon said, Coco and Jessica against Perez and Saville. Ellen Perez is a great doubles player. She's been top 10 for the last couple of years with Nicole Melichar Martinez. So that'll be a really good matchup as well.
Yeah. And just finally, and I hope you don't mind me asking, well then, in terms of, you giving strategy to the American doubles teams, how does this work when you're in the States and they're in Paris? You get on a Zoom call? I'm fascinated to know how it is you guys go about doing that. I'm sure you're not giving away any secrets by
No, you're fine. Yeah, no, I've been chatting with USTA for a while, and we worked out an agreement. So at this point, I'm basically going through data for the U.S. players as well as the opponents, and giving kind of some notes. And it's all done pretty much over email as well as video analysis. So I give them some notes on, here's some tendencies to look for. Here's some of the best serve plays that you can do against this particular player. And then I'll do a little bit of video analysis as well. So yesterday I was putting something together for Austin Krajicek and Rajiv Ram, and I was analyzing their recent matches at the German Open in Hamburg, and there was a pattern I noticed. So I pulled up my video software and I talked through it for Austin and Rajiv, and then I just send them the link to that video, and they decide with their coaches and with their team, are we going to listen to Will or are we not? So sometimes I give them ideas that they like, and sometimes they have more context than me, obviously, so they have to take the information and decide what's best going forward. But hopefully I can add a little bit of value within each matchup to kind of push them over the top.
Good. Well, listen, guys, it's been an absolute joy, and I've been captivated by learning a little bit more, and I'll certainly be watching it over the next couple of weeks. So listen, if there's anything else to add, give me a shout, and if not, we'll probably close up from there.
I don't have anything else. For anybody listening, be sure to watch the doubles at the Olympics. It's going to be really exciting matchups, like we talked about. I think you'll be able to watch it on Peacock, probably in the US. I'm not sure about where you are, Tom.
Yeah, we'll just be on the BBC. I think they've got the rights. The Olympic Games are one of these crown jewels, as they call it in the UK, and it's the sporting events that the national broadcaster have. So yeah, Hanlon, what are you doing for the rest of the day? Then you're going to be watching the Olympics tonight.
I'll be watching it, throughout the weekend and next week. I'm going to actually another family wedding this weekend, but I'm definitely going to be monitoring the scores and listening to podcasts and tweeting and everything else, because it's the Olympics only once every 4 years, so it's fun to watch these national teams pair up together and produce some exciting tennis. Yeah, and of course in the LA next time in 4 years' time, so I'm sure you guys will be busy boys. That's right. In 4 years' time. So, but listen, it's been an absolute joy, guys, and thank you very much for taking the 45-50 minutes for a chat on double. So yeah, good day to you guys. All right. Yeah, thanks Tom. I appreciate it. Enjoyed it. No problem. Bye. See you later. See ya.